Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sarafan Saleh. On behalf of Genealogy Society Singapore, supported by National Heritage Board, we hereby present our episode on genealogy entitled Our Roots, the Bugis and Peranakan Heritage. Okay, the objective of this presentation is to inculcate an awareness of rediscovering our roots via genealogy through family lineage and historical narratives. It also presents evidence of the centuries of collaboration between the Bugis and the Peranakan Chinese in the building of wealth and identity of our nation. Okay, for the Bugis part, that will be me who's going to present to you. Okay, the Bugis, a few Singaporeans are aware of the Bugis as a people, an ethnic identity, and a culture. Even fewer know that the Bugis were master seafarers from Sulawesi, often incorrectly associating the Bugis with pirates and usurpers alone. Okay, in this program, Mrs. Sarfian, which is myself, will bring us through a surprising journey of rediscovery of his Bugis identity via the construction of his family genealogy. And for Mr. Ronnie, which is going to speak about Peranakan, okay? It's said to be Chinese in spirit, and traditionally, the Peranakans are additionally imbued with the influence of Malay customs and fluent in Baba Malay. Okay, despite of their small community, much of their rich culture and heritage is still preserved. Okay, Mr. Ronnie will share on his personal narratives, taking us through his family genealogy and sharing more about the Babas in Singapore. Okay, that's the speaker for the Bugis, Mr. Sarafan, which is myself. Okay, I'm an engineer by day, managing my own firm, Techno Veritas, for over 20 years. Okay, he is an independent heritage researcher in the fields of Malay heritage. He has served as vice president for Bugis Society Singapore and a co-founder of a social media group called Bugis Temasek. Okay, Sarafan writes about local heritages in Berita Harian and regularly contributes heritage awareness to print and televised media. Okay, so the theme of his talk for today will be ancestry of the Arab and Bugis and stories of Bugis Malay heritage in Singapore. For the Peranakans, the speaker would be Mr. Ronnie Tan Kun Siang. Okay, he is honorary treasurer of GSS presently and the Peranakan Association of Singapore. Okay, he is a retired fellow chartered accountant and an auditor. He is the president of the King Teck Wei Baba Association founded in 1831. He has done extensive research on his family genealogy. He is also a docent at the Peranakan Museum and a volunteer with the Preservation of Sites and Monument Board. Okay, Ronnie is an ardent contributor to the Peranakan magazine. And the theme of his talk will be the Straits Chinese and the Peranakans, stories of Baba and Nyonya, and cultural heritage in terms of colorful dresses, food, and houses. So this things I'm going to present to you today. Okay, now Bugis will be myself. I'll present about the Bugis. Okay, we're just rediscovering a lost identity through stories and genealogy. Okay, this is always the theme that I'll always start in genealogy, embracing history, culture, and moral values. Okay, now I'm going to introduce myself loosely. Okay, just now was a formal presentation of who I am today, but from the rediscovery of my identity, this is what I discovered. Okay, I was born and raised in Singapore with a lost identity. Okay, it's very fortunate for people to always know the identity. They belong to the Javanese, they belong to the Boyanese. Some knows they belong to Bugis. But for me, I don't really know where I belong to. There isn't any ethnic community or ethnic framework ever mentioned in my family, but I do get some noises, some info on who I was before. So that made me did some investigation. Okay, then after investigation, I realized that I was the 6th generation Bugis on my father's side, on my paternal side. And I'm the 3rd generation Dutch on my mother's side. There was a bittersweet experience when I discovered this when I was in Sec 4, which I will probably share with you later if there's time. And my paternal ancestor came from Makassar, South Sulawesi, and three of them were sea captains. They were captains of sea. I almost want to sail before as a chief engineer, but my grandmother said over my dead body, so I didn't work as a sea captain or as an engineer. But then I still sail because I ended up becoming a marine surveyor. And if you look at my DNA is Bugis paternal side, and on my maternal side is Dutch. And if we break down the Dutch genealogy, I do have a Hokkien blood. So in this photograph, you can see my father. My father is he's typical Bugis, and my mom. So my mom, she's a mix, a Dutch mix and Hokkien. She has no Malay blood at all. She's purely Dutch and Hokkien. And Hokkien surname is Ui, O-O-I. Okay, now this is the family, the paternal family. Okay, my paternal family on my father's side, that's my father, that's my grandfather, and that's my great-grandfather, Daing Dasim. So this is a Bugis family. And I also realized that my great-grandmother on my paternal side, she's also a Dutch mix, the one sitting in center. And that's my maternal side, which is my mother. And this man with the songkok is actually her foster father. Okay, my grandfather on my maternal side is a foster grandfather because my grandmother couldn't bear any child, so they adopted my mother from a Dutch family. So that's another set of story which I hope I have time to share with you. Okay, so what actually got me to discover, to investigate my Bugis, because when I was a little boy, when I showed tantrum, when I was mischievous, typically a Malay family or even a Chinese family, when the boy is naughty, they will say like you're Satan, you're a mischievous boy, you are a cow or whatever. But in my family, when you are naughty, they will shout Bugis. So they actually compare a Bugis to a Satan or to something that's really bad. So that actually got me curious. Why, when I did something wrong, they call me Bugis? But then again, when I see around the area in Singapore, there were lots of places called Bugis. You got Bugis Junction, Bugis Street. At the time, no Bugis MRT, but there were Bugis Street and Kampung Bugis. Despite of the Bugis word being like a profanity, why was the word Bugis so popular? So that actually set me to ask myself. So see, when I heard about Bugis, when a child misbehaves, they call Bugis. So I consider it as profanity. No, but if it's a curse, why were there big names of Bugis at Bugis Street, shopping centers, and all that? So that was when my father asked me, told me, if you want to know your roots, if you want to know who you are, you do a family tree. Okay, that was when I was in secondary tree. So I asked my dad, okay, what if you ask me to do family tree, what descendant or what ethnic community do I belong to? Then that's what he mentioned. We are the Bugis. So when I heard my father gave me that sort of expression, encouragement, I started to do my family tree. So this is how it started. Okay, why I emphasize on family tree for this presentation is because I came from a family that don't really glorify genealogy. We don't want to talk about family tree. There is a deep story behind it, but it's also, like I say again, it's a very long presentation to share with you. But they just want to say that okay, we are just a normal Malays. The genealogy is very complicated, and but then for being very inquisitive, I started to do a family tree, and from family tree I started to interrogate a few of my families. Some have passed away, and I really discovered lots of interesting facts behind the family. So when my great grand auntie told me about the genealogy, he mentioned about a name called Dasim. Dasim, he was a police officer in the special branch once upon a time, not straight police. So when I Google, it's not Google, I was just checking his name. Then I stumbled upon his name in the archive. He was a Bugis and he worked as a police officer. Then I started to do my genealogy. Okay, so this genealogy is just a snapshot of what I did. It took me almost like 5-6 years to complete this. So this is what I discovered. I discovered that I'm actually a Bugis. I come from a Bugis clan, and there are some colorful histories on my second cousin and my third cousin side. So why I share with you this, because anyone can rediscover their history via genealogy. See, like me, I started from scratch. I started from zero. Nobody told me that I come from this particular family or that particular family, or I have a ready family tree. So I started off from scratch. And if I can do it, you can do it too, to rediscover your history. So this is a plot of this is the land that Dasim, my great grandfather, actually bought. He has this piece of land in Maidin, his own piece of land. And so he has a piece of land here and another piece of land in Lorong Maidin. They acquired it in sometime in the year 1932. Then they stayed here until 1985. So from the rediscovery of my genealogy, I discovered who I was. I was a Bugis. I'm a Bugis. Then I discovered other things. They were traders, mercenaries. They came from South Sulawesi. They became known between the 14th and 15th century when they had this political struggle and strength. Then their presence in Singapore. So how do I find all these 5 points? Is through genealogy. So genealogy is something like a primary source for me to rediscover my roots and my identity. So this just show you where the Bugis came from. It came from Sulawesi, 1,800 kilometers away to Singapore. So when they sail, this is just a straight line to show you how they navigate from Sulawesi to Singapore over a period of 14 days. But then the Bugis, they were not only boat builders or traders, they were also mercenaries, and they also trade slaves. In the past, the Bugis called slaves, but then today you don't call slaves, or you call like a labor. You send labor or workers. So that's what they do. They will stop over in Java, they stop over in Cirebon, in Sumatra, then they come to Singapore. Even during the return trip, they will stop over and take cargo. So they do they migrate. They also help people to migrate. They help people to migrate from as far as Okinawa. They help people to migrate from as far as Goa in India to Nusantara. So their job is just to help migration. At the same time, they also migrate, like how my forefathers were before when they came to Singapore. So these are just some snapshots of the Bugis navigation. They have all these charts, almanac, to fuel their desire to sail and to trade. So they even believe in the times of the year, what time to sail or when to sail, which day of the month to sail, what the cargoes, and what the month where the wind is in favor of your sailing activity. So it's all recorded. So this was how the Bugis ship looked like at Collyer Quay in the year 1825 and 1825 onwards. This was reported by one of the lookout British officer. His name is Gunnery, something Gunnery. He actually reported that when in one time of the month they actually saw lots of ships coming. So when he reported the officer back in Singapore, he said not to worry, these are Bugis. They come in large numbers. So this was how it looked like before. So these are some of the records of the Bugis ships that they came to Singapore. If you go to Straits Times, you go to Berita Harian, they have lots of these pictures that shows the Bugis Palari. Palari is the Bugis ship. And the Finis, they regularly come here between the month of July to October. So that's called the Bugis season. And in the times of January to March, that's called the junk season. The junk season refers to the Chinese. So they come from the north. They come to Singapore and they trade. Okay, they will unload the cargo. Then the Bugis will come in the month of September. They will exchange cargo. Cargoes like gold dust, opium, cotton, silk, and all the stuff. So there were lots of barter trading. And it was also recorded that this barter trading has happened long before Raffles came. There were only Chinese in Kallang, there were only Chinese in Teluk Blangah. There are some records that says that they only barter trade at the time. So when Raffles came, it was already a platform for him to take over and boost the economy. So that's what happened before. So this was how the Bugis looked like when they came to Singapore. See, if you look at this caption here, Bugis Singapore, okay? They look really, I think they look quite nasty, right, compared to me. So this was the time before. So when the Bugis came, they came in as mercenaries, they came in as traders, merchants. So the connection, okay, the connection, just to, so during my rediscovering my Bugis roots, I also do lots of research just to be sure that whatever I share with people, with friends, so what I write actually has some very strong background of where the Bugis came from. So I realized that there is a book that I have here, just to share with you. This book is called Tufaq al-Nafis, or The Precious Gift. This book actually tells a story of how the Bugis came about. Okay? The Bugis actually came from the word Bugis actually came from the word Balkis, Putri Balkis, Queen of Sheba. Okay? She married King Solomon. When she married King Solomon, she bore a child that actually became the Bugis descendant. Just to see, she married Prophet Solomon and gave birth to Siti Malangkit, Queen of Luk in South Sulawesi, following by the lineage of Bugis kings. So that is how it looked like. That's how the lineage looks like. From Prophet Solomon, Balkis, Siti Malangkit, all the way down to Labusila. Then from Labusila became Dai Mariwa. Dai Mariwa, these are all the 5 kings that came into Malaya before to take over the political power from the Johor king, the Johor prince, the Minang prince, Raja Kecil, from sitting at the Johor throne. So they're the ones who came. So if you look at these names, Daim Parani, today is the lineage of Daim Parani today is Sultan Ibrahim of Johor. If you look at Daim Chelak is the descendant of the king of Selangor today. Yeah? Then Malambon, Mariwa, Kamasi, they were all in Pontianak, Kalimantan. So why I circle this Mariwa, when I did my research, Mariwa actually led down to this Mariwa led down to dying to Shakban. So Shakban here, this genealogy Shakban shows that this was my forefathers, the first generation that came to Singapore. So he came here in the 1800, 1810, and it goes all the way down to me, which is here. So if you look at the lineage, this lineage is something that we already passed down from generations to generations. So when it comes to me, this is what I gathered. So from King Solomon, it went all the way down to me, which is today, 1970, I was born. So this is typically the lineage that we discovered as time goes by. So if you look at my lineage here, you can see that's my great grandfather, all the way down to me and my wife and my 2 boys. Yeah, 2 boys here. So it's quite a revelation. Now all this took me almost like 12 years to discover and to look for the family tree. So from there, I was so confident of having this Bugis information, the feeling, the conviction. I think I started to have a blog, Bugis Masjid. So when I have this blog in Facebook, I actually attracted lots of Bugis community in Singapore. Then I realized that Bugis community in Singapore is actually quite huge, despite the fact that Bugis is a minority in the Malay population, and Malay is a minority in the Singapore population. So I'm the minority of the minority. Yet I realized that we are quite a colorful culture after that. Initially, I thought Bugis was dead, except for the shopping center. But no, when I have this social media, I've attracted many colorful people, and you can see how colorful we are. Now, all these fabrics are actually promoted by me. I actually brought in from Makassar, and I got them to wear it. So you see, why is knowing our ethnic community important, or genealogy important? Okay, it is important to know our ethnic, so we know our origins and the choice of our forefathers have made to come to Singapore. Their perseverance to prosper and excel have contributed to the rapid growth of our nation. So our nation grew with all these people, cultural fabric. So this is a definition of genealogy. So in short, it's just to rediscover yourself. Okay, genealogy is a tool to rediscover yourself. You can't possibly go to the archaeological site and dig for evidence. No, you can't possibly go to certain place in ACM to get information from old scripts. So the best way to identify your history, your family story is via genealogy, because genealogy is the power of the story from your elders. So this is what I know from the discovery of my genealogy. I started to do lots of activities. I organized activities with Malay Heritage Center to have this Bugis exhibition in 2017. I invite French people to come and attend to my talk on the Bugis culture, make them be aware, because they themselves are researchers and they know of the Bugis connection in Singapore and the world. So I learned a lot from people more than from myself. So this is my son. I even inculcate my son to learn to write the Bugis script to promote Bugis culture. These are some of the surveys I conducted in my social media. I asked them whether do they know their Bugis, or do they know that, or do they have their family tree. And surprisingly, they all have the genealogy. It's quite surprising, but they always keep it secret, because I tell you, most of these Bugis people, when they come to Singapore, they don't want to return back to Sulawesi. Now, I'm sure some of the Indians or the Chinese, the community, they also have that same notion. When they come to Singapore, they prosper, they become very rich. I think they stay in Singapore rather than going back there. Same for the Bugis. I think that's why the Bugis changed their name, or they even forget their history. That's what I feel. Okay, so these are some Bugis settlements in Singapore. Let's not skip this. Okay, so these are some of the Bugis settlements in Singapore before the arrival of Raffles. So they are all here. Okay, this is Bugis town today. Before, the first Bugis town was in Kampung Glam. Okay, so you can see the superimposed image of Bugis town, which is at Kampung Glam. They all shifted to Kampung Bugis. So these are some of the research I did where all the Bugis settlements were located before, between 1800 to 1970. Okay, so these are some of the prominent items, iconic things that commemorate the Bugis presence in Singapore. You have the Bugis ship on a stamp and also on the $10 note. Okay, why we want to know genealogy? Because it also debunks negative perception like the boogeyman. Because some Europeans, when they want to put fear into their children who want to sleep, say that if you don't sleep, the boogeyman will come and get you. So the boogeyman came from the word Bugis. Just imagine that, how terrible. And some of the old British map, they said the Bugis were pirates. Just because they couldn't control the network of 13,000 islands in the Malay archipelago, the Bugis controlling it, and because they couldn't get a better deal, they said we are pirates. So these are some of the old expression, which is true, and actually it's not true. Just because you don't want to work with them, they'll call you names. But that's just history. And of course, this is the most terrible one. We have this Bugis Junction. So this is typically the dressings of what you see in the Bugis Sulawesi and also in Singapore. Okay, that's see, this is the Bugis before the wedding. Before this is in Sulawesi, and on the right side of this slide is my cousin Fadli. When he got married, he wore a Bugis attire. Okay, these are typical Bugis food. Okay, so you feel like soto. Next time you eat soto, or soto ayam or soto, remember this is a Bugis cuisine. They call it Choto, C-O-T-O, Choto Makassar. Okay, but there are people in Jawa, in Sumatra, say that this is their cuisine as well. But the Bugis, one thing, the gravy is very thick. They use grounded peanut. They grind the peanut so fine and they put it in the gravy, so it becomes very thick and filling. Epok is also a Bugis thing, but they don't call it epok in Sulawesi. They call it Jalang Kotek. Sounds quite awful, but that's what they call it. In Singapore, probably it comes to Singapore and Malaysia, they said that the word sounds a bit odd, so they change it to epok. And this is brasak. Burrasok is like the Bugis ketupat, but it's packed flat and cooked for 8 hours. Now this burrasok, when cooked that long, you can put it on the table after that, and it can last on your table without refrigeration for 8 to 9 days without getting spoiled. Okay. Okay, so this is another thing about the Bugis. When I started to look for my genealogy, my community, I started to collect, to have my craze. We do have a family heirloom, but I keep it. I bought some just to get the interest going. So this is the craze that you see. It's a blade. So the Bugis, they normally have this as an heirloom, but to me, I have it as a collection. That's how the Bugis dress up in Sulawesi. Okay, I don't think we can dress like this every day, right? But these are some of the fabric that we wear on occasions, exhibitions. So this is an article I wrote for Berita Harian on the Bugis Singapore that lives on. This is another topic of why the Bugis became very they're very strict with their culture, because they have lots of strict practices. So if you want to fight someone, if you want to argue with someone, might as well you argue using a blade. But these are all the old culture. We don't have all this now. So the Bugis identity today, the Bugis, what are they today? Okay? The Bugis have established the maritime trading network in the Malay Archipelago as early as 10th century. The establishment of country system by Daeng Chelak. The country system like Lim Chu Kang, Yo Chu Kang, the Chu Kang, the system. They call it the Surat Sungai. They were actually established by Daeng Chelak in the Riau, and they had many Chinese working there in the Riau Islands. So he actually had this land grants for them to work, to open a plantation. So this system was called Kang Chu, it's a concept. Okay, their presence in Singapore is evident in places names like Teluk Blangah, Kalang, Mandai, Sengkang, among others. Now I've done lots of research on this. There are scripts, there are theories that actually says that these names were given by the Bugis. Okay, the Bugis owned many land and properties in Singapore between 1800 and to 1900. Okay, they were very rich. I've got a list of names of the Bugis, like Dai Patong Po, Ambot Solo. They were all owners of lands in Rocho, in Kalang, Pasir in Bukit Timah. So there are names that appear on the map. Okay, the wealthy ones today chose to remain anonymous, and most of us regard ourselves as mainstream Malays. Just like me, if you look at my IC, I'm a Malay. I'm not a Bugis. I don't write myself as Bugis. So, in conclusion, this presentation has shown that the art of genealogy has helped me rediscover the history of my family, culture, and nation. Okay, it also instills a sense of belonging and love for Singapore, a place we call home. Okay, thank you very much. That's all for my presentation for the Bugis. Are there any questions?